Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Shook Sports Take podcast. This is the final episode of my early season NBA opinions. This is the final conference the final conference, which is the West, and the final division in the West, which is the Southwest. That is going to be the Dallas Mavericks, the San Antonio Spurs, the New Orleans Pelicans, the Memphis Grizzlies, and the Houston Rockets. Now, with this division, it's been a few teams that I thought were going to do a lot better than they are. Houston's been great. Get into them in a minute. But yeah, if you haven't seen the other videos, please do go check them out. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun series. I've said multiple times that I'm going to try to do one again at the All-Star break. And then obviously I'll do one at the end of the season to recap everyone. But this is it. This is the Southwest Division, and we're going to go ahead and start with the Dallas Mavericks. Comes to the Dallas Mavericks, they sit 5-14 and 14th in the West. It's been rough going. Now, to nobody's surprise, Anthony Davis struggled to stay healthy, but outside of that, they've had a plethora of injuries. Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively both missed time. Obviously, Kyrie's been out all season. He won't be back till the very end of the season, I don't think, if he makes it back at all. Cooper Flagg's missed a couple of games. It's just been really rough for Dallas, and a lot of people are going to say they deserve it for trading Luka Doncic. We all know I don't know what you expected when you moved on from a guy. It kills them to not have a guy ball handling all the time that is that elite. And obviously this might look a little bit different when Kyrie gets healthy, but Kyrie's coming off an ACL tear at the age of 34, 35, I think. I might be overestimating how old he is, but I mean, you just don't know if he's going to move the same. Now, I'm not doubting Kyrie Irving's ability to rehab and come back the same, but you just never know. And even then, you only have 2 years to actually go on and win something, and you're assuming in that 2 years that Anthony Davis stays healthy. This whole thing is a total mess in Dallas. The fan base is totally just I don't even know if I can think of a word for how upset this Dallas fan base is, and the only good that's come of it is Nico Harrison was fired a few weeks ago. But into the actual team, yeah, like I said, Lively, Gafford, and AD all have been injured, missing time. Davis has been good when he's played. He just isn't playing enough. You still have some really solid pieces though. Max Christie, he's one of the better 3-and-D guys in the league. He's shooting 42% from behind the arc. He plays great defense. He's continued to look like a valuable piece to this team. You have P.J. Washington and Najee Marshall, who are still doing their things on given nights. Not every night, but they both have their moments in their games of really stepping up and putting on a good performance. P.J. Washington is now hurt. He's going to miss some time. But I mean, at the end of the day, you have Klay Thompson, who just isn't the same. I still have a lot of love for Klay Thompson. I think he is still one of the greatest 3-point shooters of all time, but he's not the same, and he's not really doing a whole lot to help this team win basketball games anymore. But other than that, they're borderline abysmal when it comes to shooting. They have been the worst in the NBA. They're 29th in field goal percentage. They're 24th in field goal percentage, and then they are 29th in the league in 3-point percentage at 31%. So it's the second worst in the league. They're like, it's just so bad. Every shot just never looks like. The only time that they shot really well from behind the arc was against the Knicks, which was 2-3 weeks ago. It's been really bad. This is not going to be a fun season to watch as a Dallas Maverick fan. When it comes to Cooper Flag, it's getting better. His performances are starting to see like they're picking up a little bit. He started very slow. Took him a little while to maybe make the pace, I think. But again, you have to remember this kid is 18, 19 years old. There's so much ahead of him, and you see the flashes. Cooper Flag is going to be probably as good as a lot of people thought he was going to be. I'm not too worried about him. Same way I was saying in the other video, I'm not really that worried about Ace Bailey either. There are a lot of talent with both those guys, and Cooper Flex shows it, his maturity in the way he handles the ball, the way he attacks defenders, and again in his size and his position, the likelihood is that he has a lot of mismatches, so he's going to use that to his advantage. I have a lot of faith in Cooper Flag becoming that star player in Dallas. It's just I don't know if he's gonna blossom into this fantastic player in time for them to really make a run in a ring. And even then, they'd have to compete with Denver. They'd have to compete with OKC. They'd have to compete with the Lakers, who they gave Luka Doncic to. They'd have to compete with Houston, who are going to be in a similar time window. I don't like their odds of winning anything in this window that they've shortened so much by getting rid of Luka. At the end of the day, this season, they're not going to make the play-in tournament. I think they'll be the first team out of it. It's going to be a disaster here in Dallas. This takes us to the San Antonio Spurs. And the funny thing about the Spurs is, firstly, I did not expect them to be this good. And I made a video on here talking about my hot takes for the NBA season. Go ahead and watch that if you haven't seen it already. But after that, I went and put a TikTok on my page. The link to my TikToks are in the description. And in this video, I was asking people who their dark horses to win MVP. Now, that excludes your obvious, your Giannis, your Luka, your Jokic, and Shea. A lot, like, I was looking for answers of guys that would have to have a lot go right in order for them to be named MVP. And my answer was Cade Cunningham. I thought the Pistons could go and be really great in the soft East. Cade Cunningham would be at the front of that. There's a chance. But somebody in the comments of that video said Wembanyama. And I said, well, I just don't think that the Spurs are going to be good enough for that to happen. They'd have to win so many more games than expected. I think he'll play at a high enough level, but I don't think the team will. And boy, was I wrong, because Victor Wembanyama might just be in the MVP conversation. He is an absolute freak. Averaging 26 and leads the NBA in both rebounds and blocks. The guy's a freak. He's so good. That's seriously all I have to say about him. There's no numbers. I could read you the numbers, but they're not going to tell you anything other than the fact that he's a total freak. It's insane. You have that opening night performance was one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen. The Spurs, they sit at 11-5 at the time of me going and doing the notes for this. I think they've slipped up a little bit, but they've also been playing without Wemby. Now, he's missed the last few games, but they did get a big win over the Nuggets without him. De'Aaron Fox getting healthy was huge. And if they can just keep both of those guys on the floor at the same time and continue to have Stephon Castle, who has absolutely boomed this season, talking 17-8, shooting 50% from the floor, he just balances off Victor Wembanyama so well, because the sheer athleticism out of Stephon Castle is insane. He's got so much bounce. He's very fast. He just very agile as well. He's shifty, so he's just very difficult to guard. And then on top of that, you still have so much focus on Wemby. The two of them are so difficult to guard at the same time. He's also missing time now, but if they can just get those two on the floor and keep De'Aaron Fox healthy, I think the San Antonio team makes a lot of noise. I think they're scary, and it's not something that the rest of the West is going to want to see. Dylan Harper's playing well as well. Dylan Harper is shooting pretty well, just in general. He is finding the NBA almost comfortable, is how I'm going to put it. He's not seemed phased in his role, and he's just continuing to supply exactly what's needed from him, whether it's three-point shooting or it's playmaking here and there. He's done a very good job at remaining comfortable at all times. And like I said, you mix that with De'Aaron Fox coming back, 23-6 in his first game. He had a 30 ball the other night. He's been rolling. And then you still have guys look like Luke Cornett was a great move. I said Luke Cornett. There's also another TikTok I made when I was going over the free agency moves. I really like this move. Luke Cornett spaces the floor well. He's going to come in when Wemby's not in, and he's going to be able to supply you with points off the bench. Jeremy Sotan, he's done a great job. Devin Vassell has had a couple of big nights when needed. Harrison Barnes still goes for 25 when he's needed. These guys all play their roles so well, and they complement each other. This team is very good, and I think they might be one of the deepest teams in the league, really. Just there's so many good players off this. Keldon Johnson's one I didn't even mention. Keldon Johnson has done a great job facilitating when De'Aaron Fox hasn't been on the floor. There's a lot of depth to the San Antonio team, and I seriously think that they can make a lot of noise when it comes to the playoffs. They're going to be at least the 4th seed at the very highest. Sorry, maybe the 4th seed at the highest, and then at least the 6th seed. I don't see them having to go through the play-in. And if they can get Wemby and Fox and Castle all out there at the same time, that could even be the 3 seed. The San Antonio team is not one to breeze past in the West. Brings us to the Houston Rockets, who, when they made the move for Kevin Durant, gave up Jalen Green and gave up Dillon Brooks. The obvious thing was that they needed somebody, and this was obvious when they played the Warriors in the playoffs last season. They needed a pure scorer. They needed somebody that they could rely on to give them 25 to 30 a night, because in the playoffs, the inexperience showed. Şengün did not have a great series against the Warriors. Jalen Green had an awful series against the Warriors. Dillon Brooks and Fred VanVleet were the only two that were consistently putting up decent scoring performances, and that was because of experience. So they went and they brought in arguably the greatest scorer of all time in Kevin Durant. And it's been absolutely deadly for the offensive end for the Houston Rockets. They lead the league in three-point shooting percentage at 42%. They're 4th in points per game at 122 on average. Şengün and Kevin Durant have dominated, especially in late. Şengün's very good at really getting plenty of different looks, and he's got a surprising bag of the ability to hit really difficult shots. A lot of these turnaround it's similar to Jokic in the way he just flips the ball, like where he turns and just kind of throws it over his head rather than actually shooting. He's really good at that, and it makes it very difficult to guard, especially when you have Kevin Durant, who, hit that mid-range where he just leans back and it's almost impossible to guard, and it's pure every time he shoots it. They're just generating looks in the clutch that are very high percentages because the guy's shooting them. And then you have Amen Thompson, who has continued to blossom. He's averaging 17, 6, and 5. The raw athleticism. The amount of times, specifically in their last game, they just played against the Jazz. The amount of times that Şengün will get down in the post, look up, and just throw a lob to Amen Thompson, who is wide open 2 feet from the basket, just throws it down. It's ridiculous how often that happens. He's very good at getting lost by defenses, and those three are producing a ridiculous amount of offense for this team. Now, I said 11 and 4, 4th in the Western Conference. That was at the time, again, that I took the notes, which are a little bit outdated now, but it still tells enough of the story. They have had a lot of battles. I think they dropped a close one with the Nuggets not too long ago. That was a great game. Reed Shepherd had a great game in that one. And he's really coming along as well. Reed Shepherd, his expanded minutes has shown that he is just as good from behind the arc as we thought. Shooting 47% from 3, averaging only 13 points a game, but that's gone up in the starting role that he's been given now. And he's really blossoming. Aaron Holiday's done a great job off the bench as well. His range is rather surprising. Both those guys are so willing to shoot it from however far. It could be 2, 3 steps off the line, and they're still not hesitating to shoot it. So, that kind of just sums up the modern NBA, really. But another aspect of this Rockets team that is so interesting is the fact that they are so tall. Specifically when they run that starting 5 that has Steven Adams in it. He started a couple of games, and it's been almost impossible to guard because everywhere on the floor is the mismatch. Kind of similar to how the Thunder have it as well. The Thunder are just naturally tall. Shai's 6'6" at point guard. That's not normal. But when they roll out with Jabari Smith, Amen Thompson, Kevin Durant, and Alperen Şengün, and then Steven Adams at the 5, they've run that out. They ran that out on opening night. That lineup is very difficult to guard, but the issue is there's no primary ball handler. So now they've reverted to bringing Adams off the bench and starting Reed Shepherd, and that's worked a bit better for them. I think the offense is flowing a little bit better. Speaking of Jabari Smith, he's somebody that I had never been all that high on. I think for a while I was at the assumption that he wasn't a great 3-point shooter, but he was somebody that liked to take a lot of threes, so the consistency was lacking. Um, but he's proved me pretty wrong so far this season, and I've actually enjoyed a lot about him and specifically his play this season. How crucial he is in terms of the spacing on the floor, and the fact that he is very good from behind the arc. His willingness to pull that, no hesitation. And again, he's kind of similar into Kevin Durant in the fact that, as you know, he is a power forward, but he's been playing small forward because Durant's played the four. He's got a mismatch almost every time he's on the floor, and so the natural height difference between him and whoever's guarding him leads him to not really seeing contests, and it makes it very easy for him to not be phased when he's being guarded or contested on his threes, and he's been almost lights out. Specifically in this last few run of games where they've gone on this nice little winning run, he's been great. And then you still have guys coming off this bench, like I said, Steven Adams, Clint Capella, Josh Okogie, Aaron Holiday have all played their parts well. They're contributing to this team winning night in, night out. And Jason Tate's another one. He was a guy that I thought was going to be a pretty key part to Houston before a while back. Right around when Jalen Green was drafted, he saw a lot of minutes in a season where there was a fair few injuries to this team. And I thought that there was going to be a future in Houston for Jason Tate, but hasn't really played out that well. He hasn't played a lot of minutes since that season, but I do think that there is a space where he sees more of a role because he's just such a hard worker. He fights for every board. He's very good on the glass, both offensively and defensively. He's a pretty solid passer as well. So I just think that there's a chance that his role increases a little bit. But, this team still hasn't been fully healthy. Fred VanVleet won't play all year, which is rather unfortunate. But Dorian Finney-Smith is a guy that they brought in who is a great perimeter defender and, again, a 3-and-D guy. So he hasn't played all season either. He'll be back in a few weeks, I think. He's nearing a return maybe. That would be good to get him back as well. But overall, I think this Houston team is absolutely contenders. Now, are they better than the Thunder? No, the Thunder are on pace to be the greatest team in regular season NBA history. Are they better than the Nuggets? They've played the Nuggets twice and lost both games. I think that they're very competitive with the Lakers, very competitive with the Spurs. There is about 5-6 teams that I genuinely think can come out of the West this year, but it's all about who is the best matchup and the best matchup getting to OKC. So I don't know. It's really going to depend on that. I could definitely see this team in the Western Conference Finals. They'll be between the 3 and the 5 seed, and from that point on, you wouldn't even have to see OKC unless you fall into the 5, but until the Western Conference Finals. But there's certainly a situation here where I could see a ring, or the rings, the championship coming back to Houston, and that would be very exciting for Rockets fans. We roll into a team who I had much higher hopes for, and I actually made a TikTok about it. The New Orleans Pelicans, on paper, look like they should be so much better than they are. They are 3-15, 15th in the Western Conference, and up until yesterday, Zion had stayed pretty healthy. He'd only missed 4 games, and now he's missing extended period of time, it was reported by Shams. And very underwhelming, man. Again, considering the talent on this roster now, they brought in Jordan Poole. They still have Trey Murphy, Herb Jones. DeJounte Murray's still not played all season. He can't get healthy. Derek Queen was a guy I was really high on when they drafted him. Jeremiah Fears has been pretty solid, considering the role he's played and the minutes he's been given. Zion is on this team still. He's still the lead man. Kevon Looney has barely played through injury. I was high on them bringing him in. I thought he was a good piece. You still have guys on this team that should be playing more of a role than they are, and it just isn't working. And I don't quite understand why it's gone so wrong. But Zion, again, struggling to stay healthy now, but he had done a pretty good job up until then. But 22-6 when he's played is what you expect from Zion Williamson. Then Trey Murphy, he's been great when he's been called upon. Jordan Poole's been underwhelming, so he's been doing a lot of the scoring. He's averaging 20 and 6, shooting 46% from the field, 37% from three. Considering the volume he shoots, those are pretty good numbers. And there was a lot of hype around Trey Murphy after his performances last year. And when this team was very injured, they just traded Brandon Ingram. Herb Jones had been in and out of the lineup. Zion had been missing extended time. DeJounte Murray had still recovering from that. I think it's an ankle issue that's kept him out all this time. And Trey Murphy was there going for 30 every night because he's shooting almost 30 shots. But he is a volume shooter who is pretty consistent in his percentages. Now, Derek Queen and Jeremiah Fears both coming a long way. Derek Queen, at the time of the notes, they had a span there that was 20, 20, and 30 in his 3 out of his last 4 games. He's scoring at a much higher rate, seeing extended minutes. Jeremiah Fears is averaging 15 and 26 minutes shooting at a pretty efficient clip. Those are promising looks for the Pelicans, seeing that the guys that they've drafted are playing well and that they can continue to identify talent in these upcoming drafts. Jordan Poole's been struggling, though. 17 points, shooting 35% from the floor. He's just not... Jordan Poole is always such a strange player to me because there are the nights that he looks like he might be one of the best players in the NBA, where he gets hot and he is just burner. And then he'll go on runs of doing absolutely nothing. And it's always been very strange to me. I do like him. I think he can start to figure it out a little bit, get on a more of a consistent basis. But he just isn't playing well. I mean, averaging 17 points, that's a guy I'd expect in New Orleans to be averaging closer to 30 than 20. And he's not even averaging 20, he's averaging 17. Like, it's just very strange to see the decrease in his numbers in a situation that hasn't really changed from Washington. Now, if they had dropped a little bit, that wouldn't have surprised me. He's got more talent around him in New Orleans, but they've dropped a lot. And I don't really know what to tell you. Yves Missi and Kevon Looney, again, they've barely played. When they have played, they've been okay. Missi had a rough game the other night. But, they've just both struggled with injury, and they still don't have Murray. So if they could put all of it together, and they could start to figure it out, and if they could just get healthy for the most part. But now, look, Zion's out. He's not reliable. I don't know. I think at best they sneak into the low spot of the play-in. They're probably one and done in the play-in. But I think it's more than likely that they just miss the whole thing. And again, it ends up being another rough year for Pelican fans. It's rough, but there is talent on this roster. You just haven't gotten to see them all play together yet, whether it be an injury, and then there you have guys that just aren't putting it together. So it's a rough situation for New Orleans at the immediate moment. We have the Memphis Grizzlies, who, when I took the notes, were 6-10, but now 6-12, and the 10th seed. But they actually went on a 4-game win streak not too long ago. I think in the last 4, I think they've won 4 of their last 5, and so it's starting to look up a bit for them. I think they're now in the 8th seed in the Western Conference. But look, Ja Morant is an issue. He's an issue. He just is. Firstly, injuries. He's now hurt, but he hasn't really stayed healthy the last 2 seasons. He obviously isn't exactly the most reliable player off the court. And Ja Morant is shooting 16% from behind the arc. 16. Why is he even shooting threes at that point? Just don't shoot the ball. Honestly, that is horrendous. And he's shooting 3 or 4 of them a game. It's insane. He's just tossing up these. He doesn't even look like he wants to be in Memphis anymore. It's not the Ja Morant we know. He's not really getting after it the same way that he used to. Getting downhill, punishing people with his athleticism, just being a lethal menace inside the paint. He's just not doing it. He doesn't look like he wants to be in Memphis. He's holding him back. He's just not playing well. He really isn't. And it's crazy to see a guy just almost not care in the way that John Morant does. And maybe it's just simply he just doesn't want to be here anymore. And if that's the case, why not request a trade? Why go out there and shoot 16%? Maybe he just is in a really bad run, a horrendously bad run. I mean, this could be possible. Tyrese Halliburton at the start of last season was abysmal. He was really bad, and then he started to figure out. And look what he did in the playoffs. So maybe I'm being a little harsh, but to me, knowing John Morant's background and his issues in the past off the court, I don't think he wants to be here. Then you got Jaren Jackson Jr., who's still doing a lot of good things. He's not quite playing at the All-Star level he was last season, but 17-5 is cool. It's useful, and he's still being great on the defensive end of the floor. He was in the conversation to win Defensive Player of the Year last season between him and Mobley once Wemby had to drop out. So there are good things I see from Jaren Jackson Jr. still, but then they have a big surprise, and Cedric Howard has been awesome. One of the few bright spots in this team. He's averaging 13, shooting 46% from the floor and 38% from three. I did not see that coming. Cedric Howard has had a great season to start his career, and he's looking very comfortable in what he's being asked to do for this team. And then you have Zach Edey, who's just now getting healthy. He's been great since his return. Just all over the glass all the time, which is what you expect out of a guy who's 7'4". But he just gets the easy ones. He's on cleanup duty, and then he is still a factor on defense, and just the fact that he's such a great shot blocker, again, because he's 7'4". So it's nice to have him back. They're still missing Scottie Pippen Jr., which has been unfortunate. Ty Jerome, who is a guy that had a lot of success in Cleveland last season, he's not played here either. Both of those will be pretty big boosts to this Memphis team. Can they get them healthy? And then that brings you to what they need. They need better shooting. The guys that they have that are supposed to supply this team with shooting simply aren't doing it. Vince Williams, Santi Aldama, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope have to be better. They're all shooting sub 30 or near around 30, sub 35 for sure. They're just not shooting at a high enough level. I will give shout-outs to Cam Spencer and Jock Landale, who are both playing bigger roles than they probably would have expected to at the start of the season because of injury. Landale started at center the majority of this season for them. Landale's averaging 11-5, shooting 44% from three, which has been rather surprising. And then, Cam Spencer is shooting 45% from three. Both of them have done a good job and doing more with them what is expected of them. And it's been positive for the Grizzlies in that sense. Now, I do think this team squeezes into the play-in. They'll probably beat out the Pelicans or the Mavericks, and maybe the Kings probably aren't going to be here either. So there's a really big drop-off in the West from the teams that are contenders to then there's a couple of teams that are definitely playoffs or high play-in, and then you have just the rest, and the rest are bad. But yeah, I could see this team squeezing in there. Ja's gonna have to improve. That's where it starts, but they're not gonna make any noise in the West. They'll probably get bounced in the play-in if they win the first game. But that is it. That is this early season NBA takes done. Let me know what you think. I'd love to hear some feedback, where you think I'm right, where you think I'm wrong. And if you haven't seen any of the other videos, I do encourage you to go watch those. Thank you all for being here, and have a good one.